Ladies and gentlemen, hey hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. A few days back, we broke down all the best Warzone loadouts to use for every AR in the game. And that was something you guys really seemed to enjoy, going off the response it got, right? So today we're going to do the exact same thing, but for the SMGs instead. We've got quite a few options when it comes to the SMG category, and honestly, a lot of these are going to be great for a more aggressive playstyle, or when used as a secondary/primary on a loadout that's also got an AR or a sniper to give that class sort of an edge for close range engagements. You know, comparatively speaking, the SMGs are going to be the most efficient in those close range fights, maybe with the exception of a few of them that of course we're going to mention, and in turn, they are a great choice of weaponry on really any kind of loadout. So as we break down the best setups for all the SMGs here in Warzone, if you enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you are new to the channel, feel free to subscribe to stay on top of the latest Call of Duty news, intel, updates, leaks, class setups, and just about everything else in between. Now, per usual with my loadout videos, my perks and equipment stay the same on all of my loadouts. So we'll just cover those once in the first class to sort of get them out of the way. Then, as far as my secondaries go, I've got two that I think work the best, and we'll cover each one of those once before just focusing on the remaining SMGs and the most ideal attachments you want to be using for those. Anyways, getting into the first SMG, going in order, we've got the AUG, and this is a classic weapon that we've seen a handful of times in previous Call of Duties, and conveniently enough, when it comes to the stat sheet, the AUG can actually be the single best SMG in all of Warzone if you are using the right attachments. Personally, I'm going to say it's not my favorite SMG, however, the numbers don't lie, and this is technically the most powerful and effective SMG you can use. So, how exactly do you turn it into the number one SMG? Well, first off, you gotta rock that monolithic suppressor to extend the range and of course, keep you hidden and off the radar. Then I like to add the extended barrel onto it as well to really maximize the range in this case. And that's followed by the tac laser for some better mobility, the 5.56 NATO 60 round drums, which are ultimately going to be the most vital part of the setup, and finally I also rock the stippled grip tape on there as well. Now, as I just said, the 5.56 rounds are really going to be the difference maker here, because while the AUG with the other four attachments is still going to be fantastic, the 5.56 rounds increase the damage as well as the range. And that buff to the damage ultimately is what gives the AUG one of the fastest TTKs and damage per second stats in the entire game. So despite the speed drawbacks that do come with the 60 round drums, I would say they are definitely worth rocking. Now, as far as the secondary goes, as I said earlier, there are two that I like to go back and forth with when using an SMG on my loadout. The first is going to be the HDR, and this is going to be perfect for that sort of best of both worlds dynamic. The yin to the yang, if you know what I mean, as the AUG and all the other SMGs as well for that matter are going to be great for most close and medium range fights. And then the HDR can come in and help out with those longer range fights, which essentially completes the class, I guess you could say. And here I've got my standard HDR setup, and that consists of the monolithic suppressor, the pro barrel, the tac laser, the thermal sniper scope, and also the Stalker Scout stock too. Also, I am using the Grassy Knoll blueprint, which gives it that sort of ghillie wrap look, and that was available as a deluxe edition bonus item for anyone wondering. Now, the other secondary that I would use with the AUG and the other SMGs as well is the brand new Renetta pistol. But this is only when I want to play extremely aggressive, since obviously both of the weapons would then be geared towards more close range engagements. But that said, on the Renetta, I'd be using the Desperado Pro Compensator muzzle, the MK3 burst mod barrel, the lightweight trigger, the 27 round mags, and also the XRK speed grip to round things out there. Then, as far as my perks go, I am pretty much always rocking Cold-Blooded, Ghost, and Tracker for the most part. However, if you are wanting to use a sniper on the class, then it's always easier to just use Overkill first in perk 2, and in that case, I would also go with Amped in perk 3 as well, that way you can swap weapons a little bit faster. And then, if that is the case, just grab another loadout later on into the match to get Ghost in addition to everything else. Then I do also use the C4 and the heartbeat sensor for my equipment, and now moving forward, we'll just be focusing on the primaries and the remaining SMGs, as my secondary, perks, and equipment do remain the same on all of my loadouts as I said before. So next up we've got the P90, which I'm not gonna lie, honestly took me by surprise. I hadn't really used the P90 all that much up until this point, and when I did finally use it, it seemed really effective in those medium and close range fights. You know, luckily it does have a larger magazine, so it can clean up players and wipe squads without having to reload a ton, and the damage and fire rate combined makes for a beast in those face-to-face gunfights. Now here I am using the monolithic suppressor again, the retribution barrel to increase the range and control, the tack laser once more, the fly strap stock to increase the mobility some, and of course the stippy grippy as well, all of which is going to help with the range and make it even more accurate, which obviously you can't go wrong with here in Warzone. And so the P90 is actually a big surprise to me, and definitely a weapon that I'll be using more of in the future. Then we've got the MP5, and we all know this thing is the king SMG over in multiplayer, but here in Warzone things are a little different. It's definitely no king, maybe a prince of some sort, because it's still good, however, it's just not the best. That said, this is a setup that I found myself really liking because, good grief, does this thing shred through armor. It seems like the damage is really good, especially up close, and its range is pretty solid as well. So if you complement it by adding an HDR into the mix, you're going to have a very efficient run and gun kind of loadout. So on the MP5, I'm rocking the monolithic suppressor, surprise surprise, the tack laser, the Merc foregrip for some added control, the 45 round mags, and of course the stippy grippy once more, which is going to give the MP5 even more of a speed boost if you will, while also helping out its range some too. So definitely a solid setup for any player looking for some more close range heat. Now next up we have the Uzi, and man, the Uzi dude, this thing has consistently been the laughingstock of the SMG category really ever since day one. But I'm here to say it, I know it's gonna sound weird, but honestly, the Uzi just isn't all that bad with the right attachments. Don't get me wrong, I do think it is still the worst SMG in the category, but it's just not as bad as I think most people make it out to be. You know, this thing can be pretty powerful, but you do have to be within a distance that's currently advised against all around the world. But hey, if you are bored, I would say try it out because it honestly was kind of fun to use. Now, I am using the monolithic suppressor, which honestly looks way too big for the Uzi, the factory carbine barrel, the Merc foregrip, the 41 AE rounds, which unfortunately only come in 32 round magazines, but they're really the only way the Uzi does any kind of damage whatsoever. So you basically have to use them. And then we've got everyone's favorite grip tape yet again. So would I recommend the Uzi? Not necessarily, but I will say it's definitely not as bad as I thought it would be going into the video. Then getting back into the better SMGs, we've got the Bison, which unfortunately is not as good as it is in multiplayer here in Warzone, but it is fantastic for ultra aggressive players who just like to be always hunting down the enemies and up in their faces. You know, its range is not fantastic, I'll just say that. It does really require CQC to be very effective. However, for squad engagements, it's going to be great because you only have to reload like once in a blue moon because the magazine capacity here is amazing. So for my attachments, I'm using the suppressor that is monolithic, the steel barrel for better range, the tack laser, no stock for better mobility, and the classic stippy grippy to close things out for this one. Now, another great choice for an SMG setup comes in the form of the MP7. This is personally my favorite SMG in all of Warzone. I think it is an absolute beast. It's good up close, it's good at a distance too even. It is just all around a melt machine, especially with the following attachments. So I've got the monolithic suppressor, the recon barrel, the tack laser, the 60 round mags, so you can basically say goodbye to reloading, and the grippled stip tape per usual, which altogether make the MP7 an absolute phenom. It wrecks up close because of its faster fire rates, and its minimal recoil allows for some pretty easy takedowns at a longer range too. Then, finally, we've got the Stryker 45 DLC weapon, which honestly I would just say is very average. It's nothing to write home about, but it's also not the Uzi either, if you know what I'm saying. So it's just decent and a very middle of the pack SMG if you ask me. So on it, I've got the monolithic suppressor for the last time today, the stainless steel barrel, the tack laser, the Merc foregrip, and the 45 round mags to make it a little easier to clean up and or wipe out squads altogether. And with all of that being said, those are effectively the best setups and loadouts for every SMG here in Warzone. That is going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, or if you just found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here and you want to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news, intel, updates, leaks, and everything in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. That way you'll always know whenever I upload a new video. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code WhosImmortal on all Scuff, G Fuel, Control Freak, and Respawn products. All of those links can be found in the description below. And once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.